welcome back to SheCan, where role models lead by example by telling their stories, their insights and lived experiences to inspire, motivate and guide others. And I'm so excited to be talking to Chris Barez-Brown today. Chris, welcome to SheCan. You are a very old friend, and I don't mean old in age, but years-wise, we've been friends for a very long time. You married one of my very old friends, Anna, and so I'm so excited to have you here. You're the founder of Upping Your Elvis, a tech entrepreneur, author, speaker, facilitator, agitator, and songwriter. And I know you in all of those capacities. You help people work out who they are, what they stand for, and how they can use their unique talents to bring energy and to everything that they do. You embed a human, energetic, and creative working culture in corporations across the globe, and you've been doing it for so many decades. You published 5 books: How to Have Kick-Ass Ideas, Shine, How to Survive and Thrive at Work, and 3 others. And you also publish articles in journals. And your latest passion is something called Talk It Out, a social enterprise determined to make a positive impact on people's mental well-being. And you founded that. Chris, so give us a little bit of an overview of how you feel you got to where you are today.
Wow, when you hear that intro, it's a lot, isn't it? We've been quite busy in our lives. So how did I get to here? Well, I think I do what everyone does, right? You stumble forward. You know, you give things a go, you roll the dice, and you see how the dice come up. Some things fit, some things don't. I mean, I started off life in the army, of all places.
Exactly.
I mean, when I was 16, I was in the military. Obviously, I'm more of a lover than a fighter, so that didn't work. I then followed the promise that we all have, which is if you get a degree, then a job you want, then a job you're good at, you'll be happy. I tried that, wasn't. I was running the biggest brand in Europe. I was really young. Everyone told me I should be delighted. Didn't fit me. So I threw that in, went traveling, just tried to learn things to see who I could be. And in doing so, I fell in love with what I do today, because understanding what makes people tick, what gets them jumping out of bed, loving who they are, loving what they do is my passion. But I didn't come across that until I got it wrong many times for myself. And then once you find something that fits, it's a bit like shopping for clothes, right? When you put it on, you will never take it off because you go, no, that's just who I am. So I've just been doing that in different guises over the last few decades, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Chris, so tell us a little bit more about the work that you do. You always, it looks like you're just doing some magic. You're sort of on a stage somewhere in the world and you're spreading fairy dust. Tell us a bit more. What is that fairy dust and what do you do with people?
So ultimately, I focus on helping people get their energy right. And my belief being is if you get your energy right, life is easy and fun. If you don't, it's quite the opposite. So I help people tune up their energy to make sure that every day counts and every day's fun and every day's connected and every day has meaning. And if I say to somebody in Britain, how are you? The only allowable response is fine. Actually, I worked with a Scottish group recently. They said still alive, which I thought was very positive. But we're never just fine or still alive. So what I do is I tune people up to their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. And then I help them play tunes on that to make sure it works as best as it can for them. And most people are really good at the physical stuff these days. We know we need to sleep and exercise and do all that good stuff. But people get quite confused around our mental, emotional, and spiritual. So I spend a lot of time on that. And in doing so, I help people connect in a bit more with who they are, what makes them tick. Because my belief is if you want to get your energy flowing, Steffi, which you know, if you want to get your energy flowing, be you. Don't try and be somebody else. The more authentic you can be to who you are, the easier it flows and the better creativity and ideas we have. So I'm all about celebrating the individual and helping business kind of fit into who you are rather than the other way around.
Yeah, which I love. And that's really where you do so much incredible work. And it's very inclusive work. And you've been, you've been fighting for all the different people to inhabit spaces for a better outcome. So, Chris, what is the change in the world that you want to see and be a part of? And be a part of the solution?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I just want the planet to realize that, we're all humans, we all have the same address, and the more we can support each other, the better society will be. And And I do that work in a relatively small focused way. I do it with teams, with organizations. But the more that we can celebrate the diversity of who we are, and we can help people tap into that genius that makes them special, that's unique to who they are, the better every day is, right? And the problem is that there's a couple of things going on that makes that hard. Number one is we're not designed for it, right? So we are designed to try and fit in, because if we go back to when we're gatherer hunters on the savannah, number one on the to-do list is survive. Great strategy is part of a tribe, right? So subconsciously, we cannot help but change ourselves bit by bit, day by day to fit in. And we all do it. We do it at home, we do it with our friends, we do it at work a lot because that's our new tribe. So helping people be aware that we're doing that and helping them to connect really with what makes them special is a big part of my job, and I love doing that bit. So that's a big part of it. And obviously then understanding that if we're not designed for it, business is often then reinforcing a lot of those issues, because actually businesses are designed for another year, another century, really. I mean, half of the command control stuff that goes on came from the Roman Empire, and it's still there today. And it's just not a way to help people flourish. So I'm really big in creating conditions where people can live and work and have a more meaningful time that supports that individuality more. That's my big passion. And then hopefully we'll be beyond tolerant, we'll be embracing of each other. That's what I'm after.
Yeah. Chris, and tell us a bit more about Talk It Out. That's your newest passion. How did you get to that? How did you think it up? What is the state of it at the moment?
Yeah, good. Well, so look, it's a happy accident, Steffi. So I spent a lot of my life in innovation, helping the biggest and the best companies innovate. I invented a tool to help people get better insights and better ideas by getting into their subconscious. And that's what Talk It Out does. So the way it works is simple. You grab a buddy, you go for a walk. One of you would talk flat out about whatever you're working on. The other one just listens. And what happens is we all have a conscious story that if you were to say, hey, how's that project? I'd say, well, stakeholders are tricky and we're up against it on budgets. I'd say all that boring stuff. As long as I'm saying that, I'm caught in that 5% of my brain. So what Talk It Out does is it takes that story out of your brain, a bit like releasing a cork from a bottle of champagne, so that other stuff bubbles up from your subconscious. And in doing so, you get better insights and ideas. So I taught thousands of people how to do that. And I was really struck by a couple of things. Number one, isn't walking and talking good? Yes, it's a good thing to do, and it's better for processing. Number two, yes, I've got better insights and ideas. But number three, I just feel better. And actually, when you hear that enough times, you start to go, well, what's going on? And what's obvious to me now, but at the time I had to learn, is what you think is what you feel. But as 95% of your processing is subconscious, most people have no idea why they feel the way they do. Yeah, and they're walking around with these emotions that are really confusing. So when you do Talk It Out, you get clear, you get your head straight, you understand what's going on, and you shift that energy so that you feel better. And actually, we've tested it, and the performance is amazing. We've got people to use it just 10 minutes a week for 4 weeks. There was a 93% drop in those with low well-being in that time. Ridiculous kind of delivery. So I'm really excited about getting to people. And basically what we're doing is we're helping people get clarity, because if you went back 500 years ago, an average educated person might process 74 gigabytes of information their whole life. We're doing that every day. So no wonder we're swamped. We're just not designed for this world. And with all that information, it helps us obviously produce more of an anxious response. We're a bit more fearful. We don't know what to do. When you do Talk It Out, you get clear. And then you feel better, which is a really simple thing to say, but it's a profound impact on your life.
Chris, and it's an app, so people can download that, and then they
can
follow the sort of instructions, and that will just make everybody more in tune with themselves, reframe their narratives.
Yeah.
I know you have a lot of data up your sleeve, Chris, because I remember you telling me. So give me more of this data. What does Talk It Out app do for people?
Yeah, so look, we're very lucky. One of our partners is Unilever.
Yeah.
So they've got a team called the Data for Good team who spot projects going on the planet that's going to make it spin better, and they help. So they invested their time and their expertise, and they're really good researchers, and they tested it with the NHS, which is obviously this was an organisation I'm very passionate about supporting, because they do so much good work, but they are under-resourced and terribly managed half the time. So helping them would be good. So we just got them to use it for 10 days. In that time, anxiety dropped 37% and productivity went up 39%. And actually, it's really interesting because those are related. When you are clear about what you do better work and you get better productivity, but you feel better too. And then obviously with the test we do with Roche that I just mentioned, 10 minutes at the end of your week to put your week to bed. So you're not ruminating over the weekend about it. So you disconnect from work. And that was the one where we got this amazing drop in those with low well-being, 93% in just 4 weeks, 10 minutes a week. So the delivery is amazing. In fact, we're just up for an NIHR grant where we're going to do clinical trials with the NHS. And we're hoping that obviously it works as well with all of their organizations, and then we can plumb it into a lot of people, which would be great. And then the other bit of it, which I'm really excited about, is we've just got our AI prototype. So at the moment, when you walk and talk into it, you kind of press a button and you capture your insights yourself. With the AI one, you just talk. And depending on how your voice changes in tonality, volume, and cadence, and also some sentiment analysis, it pulls your insights out for you. So it could be listening to your conversation. You don't have to do anything. It just goes, hey, here are some things to pay attention to because I noticed you got energized about this or you got angry about this, so that you can get the stuff that's most important to you. So that's a real step change. We get that, but we've got to raise some money. That's the next part of my project.
Chris, so tell us more about that. How much money do you need? And do you have a sort of perfect partner in mind? What are the people that, would be a great partnership?
Well, look, so there's a couple of ways into that. One is just, raising money and getting investors. Obviously, investors who are passionate about people, who actually want to make a difference, who want to get involved in creating, a wave of goodness around the planet. They're going to be the best, aren't they? So I would love to find people like that. I also want to start working more with the tech companies. So we are a Microsoft startup partner. We're working with Apple at the moment. We're just starting to get a relationship with Google, because obviously not only are we helping people with this app, but if you can spot emotion in voices, there's lots of applications. You can imagine. So, if you're doing a Zoom meeting afterwards, you can say, Steph got excited about this. This was her most important point. This is what Bill wants. It can help you with the eye. It can help you with your mental health at home just by listening ambiently to your conversations. There's lots of things. It could be a psychotherapeutic help. So you understand what your attachments and judgments are. There's lots of other applications that actually I could probably get quite a lot of money towards that would then fund the mental health, so that we can then get this to the people that need it as well. So those are the best. Big tech partners and then investors with soul. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I love it. Chris, it sounds so exciting. I cannot wait for this to continue develop into this incredible tool. Chris, so what would you say are your sort of main learnings? You've been in the people's business forever and ever. You are a dad to 2 children. One of them is a trans child and actually a grown-up now. Yeah. What would you say are your sort of main learnings to date?
So actually, as a leader and a parent, they're pretty similar in lots of ways, because
exactly
all we're doing here really is trying to create the conditions for people to be amazing. And those conditions are less directive. They're less linear. They're very much less black and white. So helping people be confident to experiment and learn and try things out to see who they are and how they get the best energy and how they tap into their passions is what the game's all about. And you can't force that. It's about using the energy of the individual in that context that counts. And that's very much the case for the work that I do. It's very much the case for my kids, and, seeing, obviously, Harvey's got all sorts of challenges. Being trans is super hard. It's a tough life. Yeah. And she is very brave to say that's who I am. But actually working out what that means and how you want to live in a good way, you can only do through experimenting and through trying out different environments and seeing what works and what doesn't. And a lot won't work. That's just life, right? That's just life. So then it's tuning up to what feels good and going, if that worked in this case and it felt good, how do I get more of this happening in a way that's healthy and nurturing and grows me? And that's very much a parent's job. It's very much a leader's job. It's the same thing. It's just a slightly different context.
Yeah. Chris, so what do you feel? What tips could you give to people listening? to be a part of making this world a better and more balanced place, what tips could you pass on that you feel, you've seen thousands and thousands of people transform literally in
Yeah.
front of your eyes with your help?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are so many things in there. One of my biggest outtakes every time is this: the only thing that gets in our way is ourselves.
Mm.
Every time. And we have, again, part of our design as gatherer hunters is we have an inbuilt negativity bias. So if we see something new and different, we go, it's going to eat me. Now, it was great 50,000 years ago. It's not great today because the whole world is different. So we're often just shying away from doing something new, taking on challenges, growing. We much prefer to stay small and safe. And in that mentality, we're all about ourselves. We are ego driven. I need a bigger house. I need more money. We don't think about society because it's purely survival. We need to get out of that state. We need to do that for ourselves because otherwise our lives are very restricted. We don't grow. We don't do new things. And we are very insular. We need to do that on a societal level because otherwise, this is why we have the wars. You're different to me. You're wrong. This whole danger, you don't look like me, you don't speak like me, you've got a different religion, you must be wrong, therefore we need to fight. That's all that level. When we get out of that and we start to connect to a higher purpose, a higher energy, maybe some more spiritual stuff, we realize that's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And then you know what? Life becomes more fun again. Here's my litmus test. Am I having fun? If I'm not having fun, I've gone into those negative, dark, lower energies where it's all about me. As soon as I've noticed that, get connected again, I have a smile back on my face, I do much better work. And actually, I've done these workshops for so long and big events where there's amazing transformations that happen. And I had somebody come and talk to me. They said, look, I was in a room with you. You had somebody in there who, when they walked in, they literally dragged themselves in. I thought they were 10 years older than me. By the end of the week, I found out they were 10 years younger than me. And actually, they looked it by the end of the week, right? What happened, right? And honestly, I know this might sound slightly cliched, but at the time I said, you know what? We just love people until they love themselves.
Yeah,
right?
amazing.
And ultimately, that's what we do. We create a condition for everyone to go, oh, do you know what? I'm actually good. I'm a good person. I don't need to beat myself up. I don't need to be so restrictive. I'm here for a reason, and it's just to live this life in a way that's appropriate to who I am. Brilliant. Let's crack on.
Yeah.
And actually, if you can get that going, everything else falls into place.
Yes, and amen to that, Chris. Yes, and we see so much of that very, very low frequency type of leadership at the moment in the world, and we really need all of the messages that you've just given to take hold and ground them to get out of that low frequency of fear and everything that we see around the world right now.
Yeah.
Chris, so I know you were part of an agency called What If before you set up Upping Your Elvis. And I remember you telling me that you had sort of schemes for mothers that they didn't have to work during school holidays or didn't have to come into the office. And they were actually more productive than full-time people. So tell us a little bit about that. I remember in What If you did a lot of exploratory and experimental things, both with clients, but also within the agency. So can you talk to us about that a bit?
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer in doing both, right? You can't help a client deliver innovation unless you live an innovative life, quite simply. So you have to practice what you preach in this case. And, we're all about getting the best out of people. So we just did loads of experiments. Let's just try things out to see what worked. And actually, what we did do is we just did this very simple, flexible working. And actually, it was open to anyone. It was open to men and women if they wanted to, because there are some fathers who would find it very handy too. Interestingly, in that particular case, a lot more women took it up. And what it meant was they could work 3 days a week instead of 5. They could have all the summer holidays off and all the Easter holidays. They could just flex regardless of where we're at as an internal business. They would do whatever hours they wanted to, as long as they delivered the results that were part of what they were running, right? And actually, to this day, I still have the same going on in my business. Because why wouldn't you? I mean, it's nuts to say you have to work 9 to 5, 5 days a week. I mean, that was all designed by, Henry Ford. It was, it's all about production lines in industry. That's not the world we live in now, So if we flex, then we get more from our people. Now, in what if days, the women, mainly women, that we would have lost from the workplace were so pleased to be working with this flexibility. They were the best people in the agency, had the best fresh energy. They came at things in different ways. They were absolutely invaluable to us. Now, in lots of different ways since then, I've experimented with flexibility. I've found the same thing. I had a guy join us who basically had a visa in China. He was about to lose his tax residency. He said, can I go and live there for a month? I'm like, yeah, go and live there for a month. Do whatever you want, as long as we're working. It's cool, right? Let's make it fit you. I had somebody else who ran all our social. He said, I want to travel around South America while doing my job. I'm like, great, do it. If that's what, and invariably you get more brilliance from these people, because what you're saying is, I'm helping you live your life. You just help me make sure I'm delivering the results that we need. And that's not a bad little chat to have. It's not about money and salaries. We know that. You can earn money so many different ways. It's about how do you help people be themselves in the situation of the work that you deliver. And actually, the more you can do that with flexibility, the better. And What If taught me loads about that. Because, once you've seen it up close and you see the brilliance you get from people, then why would you do anything else?
Chris, I love it, and I'm so fascinated by that. And when I hear you speak, I feel that, we need that. We need to innovate like crazy at the moment. We're faced with so many challenges as a society and as humans, and we need to find ways forward. And for us to innovate in the way that is necessary for humans, but for companies and for all the ventures, I feel we need much more of this approach, because otherwise we're just stuck in this productivity loop, and we are not innovating when we're stuck in that loop. And I think many companies see that now. And, there's a lot of German car makers that are stuck in this rut and they haven't innovated. And now they really feel that they're losing out, because all the others who have been innovating, their output is much higher. So I feel that there is so much in it, but I just feel that this isn't still to this day, not really a practice that most companies adopt. Why is that? Why do you think that is? When the research and the data is so clear?
Well, look, there's simple examples of things that people do every year in business without questioning them that we know are disastrous. For example, annual appraisals. In the 1960s, there was a massive research program that showed that they are at least neutral, but most often detrimental. But we still do them. Because there's a mentality which is we have to do these so we can manage our budgets and pay rises. But it's nothing to do with growth and performance and motivation at all. When people sit down and they do their plan for the next year, how many of them do a plan that shows that they're going to stay at the same level of production and volume? None. It's always growth. But they never think about the growth of the people or the culture or the impact. They only think about how do we pay off the investors, because everything's about money. If we don't have investors, we don't have a business, so we've got to keep them all happy. Now, I understand we need that as the lifeblood, but it can't be the only factor. And we've become so blinkered by, paying back the investors, getting good performance to pay bonuses, we forget about the other games that we're playing. It's ridiculous. So there are so many things in business we need to challenge. And because we're not designed for business, I think we should make business fit us more. Because when we do, we'll have better energy, we'll deliver better results, and then business will win as well. But at the moment, it's all the other way around. We're not designed to sit at a desk for 8 hours looking at a screen. We can't do it. We physically cannot do it because of the way that we are put together. We're designed to be gatherer hunters. We're designed to move. We have very limited focus. And yet we often say, right, team, get head down. It's all about grind. It's all about productivity. And then we wonder why people are fried and hating it. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, so what are your sacred habits? How do you stay in shape, and how do you make sure that you can always show up?
Well, look, so we've been running these energy experiments for the last 4 or 5 years, where we get some of the world's experts in energy. They give us a challenge for a month, we try it, and then we do a podcast afterwards. And actually, I wrote my last book based upon that one, just my favorite energy experiments. And it's interesting because what I love and have impacted me isn't necessarily what my business partner Jim loves. So in the morning, I'm a big believer in a few things. Number one, when you wake up, do not look at that. As soon as you look at that, you're on autopilot. So never look at your phone when you first wake up. I drink a pint of water as soon as I wake up because you're massively dehydrated. I go to the gym. I need to get my heart rate up. I then do cold water. So either a pond or a refrigerated tub. I do all that stuff, and then I do some protein stuff before I actually ever think about doing any work. And what's really important while I'm doing that is I get focused on what my big thing is. What is the one thing that's going to make the difference that day? And I say one thing because then I will actually achieve it. If you have this to-do list of 20 things, nothing ever happens, and there's no real priority in waiting to it. So getting clear on my big thing, and often what I'll do is I'll do a talk it out. When I come back from my dip, to get clear on what that big thing is, and then I make that my priority. Really, really simply. So it's quite disciplined. I also reflect at the end of the day what worked, what didn't. I make sure there's lots of movement in between my day. I'm big on nutrition and getting the right stuff. I mean, there's lots of things that layer. And I don't do it religiously every single day because what I noticed is it takes the fun away, right? So I'm very happy to break some rules and do things differently, but at least there's a principle there, and I do it more consistently than not. And you know what? Now when I'm working out, I've got Stanley Tucci on the TV instead of a TED Talk, and it's so much nicer. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes just do some stuff that just gives you a little kick and gets you excited about what you're cooking in the night. So make it fun stuff, and then it'll help your energy.
A little Stanley Tucci, I love him. He's so funny. Yeah.
I'm a bit smitten.
Yeah, totally. Chris, so what would you say are you most proud of to date?
I think it'd be a very common theme. I think it'd be my family. I mean, family is the most important thing. Without that connection, without that sense of place, we're husks, aren't we? And my family are amazing. I just love being with them. I love seeing them grow. Everybody, I love the way our dynamic keeps changing. So I think family is always going to be the most important thing. Then after that, you do the spheres of other things that have impacted your life. I'm really proud of where I live and the life that we lead, and the fact that we do work that has meaning and matters. And my company support each other. They love each other. They help each other in the hard times, which everybody has. That is pride. What do you think about what are you really going to care about when you're 90 years old, or the way we're going these days, 100 with modern medicine, 120? You're going to care about the people. That's what you're going to care about. You're not going to care about how much money you've made, how many books you've written. You're going to care about the impact you've had on people's lives, and that's the stuff that I'm most proud of. And we can all just focus a little bit more on that rather than us and those kind of lower energies of more. And actually, ironically, we get more when we do it.
Absolutely, yeah. Paying rent on this planet Earth really pays off with happiness.
Doesn't it just? Yeah.
Chris, so tell us about your plans and goals. And I know that you might not do it in the way that I'm asking the question, but what is in store for you for this year and the next years, do you think?
Yeah, well, look, talk it out. I really want to invest some time and effort in it. I want to get to as many people as I can. So, this next, we've got an AI prototype. I want to build that into the app. And so that's got some stuff attached. So we need to get tech partners, all that stuff. And that's very exciting. And what I like about that is, I love being in a room with people. But if I'm really honest, it's very privileged people that can get time, to invest the money to do that type of work. And the planet needs help. So I really want Talk It Out to be something that we make accessible to anyone who needs it. So that's why Talk It Out is so important. And I also know that, the system that we've got now around mental health is failing us. We will not be able to keep up with the demands of it. There's 1 billion people on this planet right now with a mental or emotional health challenge. 2/3 will not talk to another human being about it. Yeah. And we won't solve that problem with therapists. It's just not happening, No. So the only way it can work is we help people help themselves.
Yeah.
And I really want to do that in a meaningful, cool way. And there's lots of people doing some great stuff in this area. And I just think we can shift the dial. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. I've also, You know, my daughter being trans, she has so many challenges because it's tough. You know, I've got resources and I know what I'm doing. I could not get her help, the help that she needed.
Yeah.
So how many people out there have no hope whatsoever? You know, millions and millions and millions of people. So that's why I'm so excited about doing that, because you know we all need to somehow help people support themselves. You know, so that's a huge focus. With Elvis, I'm just enjoying gigs. You know, I'm off to Berlin to be on stage this week. I just love going and talking to people and getting people excited about who they can be. And I'm all about upping your Elvis, helping people work different. You know, so that it's not what it used to be. It's not all, you know, slog and it's just making somebody else rich. And it's really got meaning and it helps us live better lives. You know, a third of our days on this planet are work days. You know, if we're not loving it, it's a shocking waste of life. So if I can help more people love what they do, love who they are, I'm a super happy man.
Yeah, and you do incredibly with that, Chris. And I've watched you over 30 years or whatever it is, and it's always inspiring, it's always energizing, and it always motivates me in all the things I do. Chris, so what takeaways would you like our listeners to have from your story?
I think I'm going to go back to that point I made, which is this is the most amazing life. I mean, the opportunities that we have are incredible. And we have lots of challenges. I mean, and if you haven't had one, it's coming, I'm afraid. That's just the way that life is designed. But don't take your eye off the fact that this planet is amazing. The people on it are amazing. You know, every day I think is a game, right? And if you go into it with positivity and love in your heart, and you pay rent for the planet, as you rightly say, which you do beautifully, by the way, Steph, you're a great role model for that. You can only win. You can only win because it's not about accumulation of asset. It's about how many lives you touch. And we all have a chance to do that. And if we're not enjoying it, change something because it's only you that's making that happen.
Chris, I'm so happy that you took the time to be on SheCan, to tell your story, all your insights, the love that you spread. And you do that. You love people until they love themselves. And you've been doing that in your private life and in your business, in your professional life. And you know that I love you very much and I love your family very much. And I'm just so proud of you when I hear you speak. So thank you so much.
Look, it's a huge pleasure. You know, I love you to bits. I'm very grateful for everything you've done for the family, and I love what you're doing with SheCan because it is sending out a very positive message out there to lots of people that need it. So well done on your work.